The forest went quiet all at once. Not the peaceful kind, the wrong kind. Rachel Carter stopped mid-step, her boot hovering above the leaves. Birds that never shut up had gone silent. Insects that buzzed through the air moments ago were gone. When a forest like this suddenly holds its breath, something bad has already happened. Then she heard it. A scream. Sharp. Raw. Not human. It ended too fast. Rachel's training told her to turn back and call it in. Her instincts told her to move forward. Years of working in wildlife rescue had taught her one thing. Instincts save lives when rules hesitate. She pushed through the brush and found the mother in a small clearing. The mountain lion lay still, her massive body already cooling. One leg was trapped in a steel snare, the wire biting deep into flesh. Blood stained the dirt. The ground around her was torn apart from the fight. She never stopped fighting. Rachel knelt beside her, knowing she was too late. Then she heard it. Soft. Weak. 4 tiny cubs crawled out from beneath their mother's body, blinking in confusion. They were barely 6 weeks old. Their eyes were open but unfocused, their spotted fur still bright. They pressed together, crying for something that would never answer. Without their mother, they wouldn't survive the night. Coyotes would smell the blood. So would bears. And worse. Rachel scanned the trees. She didn't need a clock to know she was out of time. Okay, she whispered. New plan. The cubs hissed, tiny teeth flashing. Even this young, instinct told them she was danger. She moved slowly, kept her voice calm, and scooped them into her field pack. One scratched her arm. Another bit her shoulder through the fabric. She didn't stop. Her truck was miles away. The ranger bunker was closer, barely safe. Rachel ran. Before we dive into the story, let us know where you're watching from in the comments and subscribe, because I will be sharing something special tomorrow. Branches whipped at her arms as she pushed forward. The cubs cried inside the pack, their voices echoing through the trees like a warning signal. Behind her came the sound she feared most. Howls. Coyotes. They were fast. Rachel was stubborn. She ran harder. Her lungs burned. Her legs screamed. Still, she didn't slow down. Humans had survived for thousands of years not by being the strongest, but by refusing to quit. She reached the bunker just as shapes appeared between the trees. Rachel slammed the door shut and locked it. Something hit the metal hard. Then again. Inside, she dropped to the floor and released the cubs. They scattered instantly, hissing and spitting, terrified of the tight space and the stranger who had taken them from everything they knew. One cub crawled into the corner, trembling, crying out for a mother who would never come. Rachel swallowed hard. I know, she whispered. I know. The bunker was cold. The cubs needed warmth. Food. Safety. The rations inside weren't meant for newborn predators. She searched anyway, hands shaking, heart racing. Nothing useful. Rachel didn't panic. Panic wastes time. She grabbed a small heating unit, wrapped her jacket around it, and created a warm nest. Then she mixed what she could: milk powder, water, nutrients meant for injured wildlife. It wasn't perfect. It was hope. She offered the first bottle slowly. The smallest cub sniffed it, hesitated, then latched on. The others rushed forward, fighting for space. Rachel laughed quietly, relief flooding her chest as she fed them one by one. Outside, the howls didn't stop. Something slammed against the bunker wall. Claws scraped metal. Rachel checked the window. Cracks were forming. She worked through the night. She dragged heavy shelves to block the window, reinforced the door, sealed every gap she could find. Every hour, she stopped to feed the cubs, check their breathing, make sure they were still alive. At some point, they stopped hissing. They pressed against her instead. The smallest one began to purr. At first, it was rough and uncertain. Then the others joined in, a soft chorus filling the bunker. They trusted her. Rachel sat against the wall, exhausted, surrounded by cubs who should have died, but didn't. When dawn came, headlights cut through the trees. The rescue team found Rachel asleep on the floor, the 4 cubs draped across her lap like living blankets. The bunker door was scarred with claw marks. The window barely held. The lead ranger stared in disbelief. You ran through predator territory carrying these cubs? He asked. Rachel opened her eyes slowly. They needed help. He looked at the bottles. The makeshift barriers. the scratches on her arms. You didn't have to, he said. Rachel looked down at the cubs, their tiny bodies rising and falling. Yes, she said softly. I did. The ranger removed his hat, respect clear in his eyes. That day the cubs lived. Because when nature said it was over, Rachel said not yet. The rescue team worked quietly, as if loud voices might break something fragile. They checked the cubs one by one, listening to their breathing, marking their weights, whispering instead of speaking. Rachel stayed still, barely daring to move, afraid even a small shift might scare them. They should have died out here, one ranger said under his breath. Rachel didn't argue. She knew it was true. The cubs were placed into a padded carrier, warm and safe, but one of them, the smallest, refused to let go. Tiny claws dug into Rachel's sleeve, and a soft, desperate sound came from its throat. Rachel smiled sadly. I know, she whispered. I know. The ranger hesitated, then nodded. Let them stay with her. For now. Outside, the forest slowly woke up again. Birds returned. The silence lifted. Life moved on the way it always did. Later that morning, Rachel sat on the steps of the bunker, watching the cubs sleep in the sunlight. They were alive. Thin, scared, but alive. That mattered. Someone asked her why she ran instead of calling it in. Why she risked herself. Rachel thought for a moment. Because her mother didn't give up, she said. She fought until her last breath. I couldn't do less. The cubs shifted, pressing closer together. Rachel stayed right there, guarding them. Not because it was her job anymore, but because some promises don't need words. And until they were strong enough to face the world, they weren't alone. As the transport doors closed, Rachel rested her hand on the carrier one last time. The cubs stirred, sensing her presence even in sleep. She didn't know what their future would look like, only that it existed because someone stayed when it was easier to walk away. The forest would always be dangerous. Loss would always be part of it. But sometimes survival came down to one choice made in a moment of fear. Rachel stood as the vehicle pulled away, watching until it disappeared between the trees, knowing she'd carry them with her long after they were gone.